Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to change the subject now. A quick question to the Minister. Does the Minister agree with me that the illegality of Israeli settlements is one of the most firmly established issues in modern international law?
The Honourable Minister.
My understanding is that we've made very public statements as a Government of Canada about the nature of the settlements in the occupied territories being deemed illegal.
The Honourable Member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Does the Minister agree with me that Canada has a duty to act within its jurisdiction with respect to the subject of illegal Israeli settlements?
The Honourable Minister.
And what I would say to the member opposite is that we've been quite vocal in respect of the nature of the settlements being illegal in terms of statements that we've been making over the last year with respect to the conflict in the region.
The Honourable Member.
With respect, Madam Chair, I just need a simple yes or no answer from the Minister.
Honourable Minister.
I've given my response, Madam Chair.
The Honourable Member.
Madam Chair, in March we saw several events in Canadian communities in which real estate sales of settlement homes in occupied Palestinian territory were promoted and potentially sold. This was a real estate tour called the Great Israeli Real Estate Event, which was held in Montreal and Toronto. Israel's far-right government has been expanding and authorizing illegal settlements at a rate that exceeds all previous years. Settlements are illegal under international law and under Canadian policy are an impediment to peace. There should be a priority of this department, given that this is illegal under domestic law, and also given that increasing settler violence in the West Bank, which the minister's government acknowledged last week when it imposed sanctions on extremist settlers. So, through you, Madam Speaker, has the minister's department investigated these illegal sales, which may violate the Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act, which lists population transfer by occupying powers as a recognized war crime under domestic law?
The Honourable Minister.
I thank the member opposite for his question. What I can reiterate is that we've made quite public statements, both on our own, but also with the governments of Australia and New Zealand, with respect to the settlements and their status at international law. What I can also reiterate is that pursuant to a motion that was actually proposed by the member opposite's party, we voted on that motion, I believe, in March, talking about actions that need to be taken with respect to certain individuals from those settlements, including taking actions with sanctioning extremist settlers. And we did exactly that last week by naming 4 extremist settlers for sanctions. Those are the actions the Government of Canada has taken.
The Honourable Member.
That's all very clear, Madam Speaker, but I'm looking at the investigation of the particular potential sales that happened here on Canadian soil. I'd like, through you, Madam Chair, for the Minister to comment directly on that specific question. I think Canadians have a very deserved right to know.
The Honourable Minister.
With respect to the settlements, Madam Chair, what I can indicate is that we deem them to be illegal at law, as we've pronounced in statements that have been given by our government and by the government of Australia and New Zealand. We've also taken steps to issue sanctions against settlers from those regions who are taking extremist actions, and that the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, I want to know what work the Minister is personally doing to make sure that there is an investigation and potential prosecution of people in Canada who are facilitating the purchasing of property, investments, or businesses in illegal Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory.
The Honourable Minister.
So the member opposite knows, as a former member of the Justice Committee, that decisions about investigations and potential prosecution for criminality, whether it's here or abroad, are undertaken as they need to be in a democracy by entities such as the freestanding and independent Department of Public Prosecutions, Director of Public Prosecutions, or the War Crimes Unit. Those are not handled or directed by me.
I understand that very well. That does not preclude the Minister from issuing broad statements about what the government expects. So again, through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to hear an answer from him. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
What I can indicate is that the Minister of Foreign Affairs has been very vocal with respect to the status at law of the settlements at international law, and also with taking action with respect to sanctioning extremist settlers. That happened last week.
The honourable member.
With respect, Madam Chair, the minister's being quite evasive. I'm not talking about the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm not talking about Israeli settlements abroad. I'm talking about Canadians who may have broken the law here in Canada regarding the sale, the purchase of properties in the occupied Palestinian territories being done here on Canadian soil. I'd like a specific answer to that specific question. That is not under the purview of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That is the purview of the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada.
The honourable minister.
And the purview of the Attorney General of Canada with respect to the conduct of litigation is not to wade into criminal prosecutions. There's a very strong line that's existed for over 20 years. That's why we have a Director of Public Prosecutions Act. That's why we have an arm's length entity and an individual who is the Director of Public Prosecutions, so that we don't have potential political direction being given about investigating crimes or laying charges in this country in any respect. So if people have evidence of a potential crime being committed, they should contact law enforcement, not the Office of the Attorney General of Canada.
Honourable member.
Madam Chair, will the minister personally instruct the War Crimes Division of Justice Canada to conduct enhanced human rights due diligence for all real estate transactions made in Canada or by Canadian citizens that involve illegal settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories?
The honourable minister.
I just want to reiterate for the member opposite, because it's really fundamental that he and every Canadian watching understands that even with respect to the War Crimes Unit, they operate at arm's length from me. They do not take directions from me with respect to domestic potential law violations or international law violations. That's critical and really separates us as a nation state that believes in democracy, but having that important division.
The honourable member.
Again, Madam Speaker, there's nothing precluding the minister from setting out certain expectations. I think that's very well and good to be established and still keeping an organization within the Justice Department at arm's length. I want to move on, Madam Chair.